The sun drifted low over the African savannah, spilling shades of burnt orange and deep gold across the vast horizon. The light seemed almost ceremonial, as though the sky itself wished to honor a ruler whose final hour was drawing near. A warm wind carried the scent of dry grass, sun-baked earth, and the distant hum of wildlife settling into the evening. Through this endless landscape walked a lion not with the strength of his youth, but with the dignity of a king who had earned every scar, every triumph, every sunrise of his reign. His steps were slower now, deliberate, yet still commanding. For 10 long years he had been the undisputed ruler of this land. His name was Makalo, name spoken with respect by elders, remembered by rivals, and carried on the wind with the weight of legend. He was not simply leader of a pride, he was the heart of the savannah, the thunder in its storms, the breath in its silence. Now his journey was reaching its final chapter. Makalo made his way to the top of an ancient rocky hill that had watched over the plains for generations. He knew this place well. It was here he had stood through many seasons, watching distant rains return, greeting the migrations, guarding his territory, and issuing the mighty roars that once shook the night air. It was here he had won his crown. It was here he had chosen to say goodbye. At the hill's peak, Makalo lifted his head and gazed out across the expanse. His eyes, though tired, still held the depth of a life fiercely lived. Every ridge and hollow in the land carried a memory. The valley of his first hunt, the river where his cubs drank for the first time, the shaded acacias where he rested after battles that tested not only strength, but spirit, the open fields where challengers fell before him. His life was etched into the soil. He drew a slow breath. The warm air filled his chest as it had thousands of times, though tonight it came with a finality that felt peaceful rather than painful. Age had not defeated him. It had simply come to close a story that deserved a noble ending. In the distance, 3 young lions watched. His sons. They remained at a respectful distance. They longed to approach him, to stand at his side in his final moments, but instinct told them this was a sacred time. The farewell of a king is a quiet ritual, witnessed but not disturbed. Makalo could feel their presence. He knew their hearts were heavy. He knew they feared the moment he would no longer lead them. But he also knew they were strong enough to carry his story forward. The breeze rustled through his mane, now streaked with silver. Though age had softened his body, it had not weakened his presence. Even now, there was a kind of eternity in the way he sat, tall, proud, unbroken. Lowering himself carefully onto the warm ground, Makalo felt the familiar pulse of the earth beneath him. The soil had cradled him through life. Now it welcomed him gently back. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the memories wash over him like a cooling rain. He saw himself as a clumsy paws, curious eyes running beneath the watchful gaze of his mother. He remembered the rush of his first successful hunt, the sting of his first defeat, the fire of his first victory. He remembered growing into his strength, shaping his pride, defending his land. Above all, he remembered the battle that made him king. The old ruler had been fierce and seasoned. Their clash shook the plains. Dust rose around them. Roars cracked through the air. It was not brute strength that won Makalo the crown, but determination of flame inside him that refused to die. When he finally stood victorious and released his victory roar into the night, even the stars seemed to shimmer in acknowledgement. That roar marked the birth of a reign that would be spoken of for years. Makalo opened his eyes again, letting the last rays of daylight wash over him. He no longer saw only land, he saw his legacy stretching out before him. The migration paths he had safeguarded, the resting places he had shared with his lionesses, the fields where his cubs learned to walk, fight, and lead, the territories he conquered and protected, the storms he survived and the seasons he commanded. It all belonged to him and now, to those who would follow. Finally, he turned his gaze toward his sons. He stepped forward, still cautious, but closer now. They were strong, broad-shouldered, sharp-eyed. With the early beginnings of the thick, commanding manes that would soon mark them as rulers in their own right, they carried his blood, his spirit, his story. Makalo felt a swell of pride and peace. They were ready. He dipped his head toward them just once, small gesture, but heavy with meaning. It was the last command, the last blessing, and the last farewell they would ever need. The three young lions bowed their heads in return. It was instinctual, ancestral, a rite older than memory. They did not weep. Lions do not weep. But their bodies trembled with the weight of understanding. Makalo drew in one final breath. He wanted to keep the essence of his kingdom within him, the warm scent of sunlit earth, the dry sweetness of grass, the distant call of antelope and zebra settling for the night. He wanted the wind across his mane to be the last caress he felt. Then he did what no one expected. Makalo roared. It was not the mighty roar of his youth, did not echo with the same force that once shook the trees, but it carried something far greater, a lifetime of strength, legacy, and honor. It rolled across the plains like a final blessing. The antelope froze. The zebras lifted their heads. The elephants paused mid-step. Even the sky seemed to hold its breath. It was the final roar of the king. When the sound faded, Makalo felt the last threads of life unwind gently inside him. There was no fear, only calm. Only the quiet certainty that his place in the circle of life had been fulfilled. He lowered his head to the earth, closed his eyes, and let himself rest. A deep silence settled over the savannah. Slowly, his sons approached. One pressed his forehead to Makalo's, another brushed his mane. The third lay beside him for a moment. It was their own silent ritual, one of respect, gratitude, and farewell. Makalo had left the world as he had lived in it. As a king, standing side by side, the three young lions turned toward the horizon. The first stars were emerging. The night stretched before them like a new kingdom waiting to be shaped. Life would continue. The circle would rise again. And the legacy of Makalo would live in every roar, every hunt, every dawn that broke over the savannah, because a true king does not die. He simply passes the throne. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing to the channel.